As I say, we've thought about Sarah, Abraham's wife. I don't think many of us think really about Abraham's wife. She had bore Isaac, her son. So I just thought, what did she think? And what was her thoughts? What would our thoughts have been when Abraham took Isaac off to be sacrificed? Did she really know that Abraham had taken Isaac off and he was going to sacrifice him? She had waited so long for a child, and here he was being taken away from her. And we read about that in Genesis chapter 22. I wonder what she thought. Did she have Abraham's faith that even if Abraham sacrificed him, that God could bring him back to life? Would we have had that kind of faith? Would we have really thought, yes, well, it's going to be okay, it's going on, but he'll be back again? I'm sure, Sarah must have had some real thoughts about that, as we would. I was just thinking, what would we have really felt about this? And this was just one of the mothers in the Bible who was willing to sacrifice her son. And then I come to the one that really, we have talked about this before, but it's this Mary, the mother of Jesus. The sacrifices that Mary had made. When she went all the way to the cross, and she watched her son die such a cruel death. So let's look at Mary. In chapter 1, it talks about, in verse 26, on the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent by God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David. And the virgin's name was Mary. And having come in, the angel said to her, "Rejoice, highly favored one, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women." But when she saw him, she was troubled at his saying, and considered what manner of greeting this was. Then the angel said to her, "Don't be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. And behold, you will conceive in your womb and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Jesus. He will be great, and will be called the Son of the Highest. And the Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over the house of the Lord forever. And of his kingdom there will be no end." So here's a young girl, 16 years old, maybe younger, I'm not sure. And an angel comes and tells her she's going to have a baby. She's going to be a mother. I wonder what she was thinking. She was asking, how's that going to happen? Because I haven't been with any man. And she wasn't married, and she was a virgin. But what does Mary do? She accepts what's said to her without question. Little did she know what was ahead of her. And what did Mary say? "Let it be to me according to your word." Let it be to me according to your word. So the first thing she did after all of that was she worshipped the Lord. She worshipped God. She lifted up her heart in praise and worship. Can you imagine being told by an angel, you're going to have a baby, and he's going to be great, and he's going to rule, and he's going to be this and that? But then she just accepted it and just said, and worshipped God. She just worshipped the Lord. The first thing that she faces in having Jesus was in a stable somewhere. She had this baby in a stable. Nowhere to leave him, nowhere to have him. So they put him in a manger. Anybody who doesn't know what a manger is, it's a feeding trough. Not a very nice place, is it? But that's where she put him. She must have been wondering about the things that were happening to her. Jesus, her son, in verses 31 to 33, it says, "Behold, you conceive in your womb and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Jesus. He was to be a great son of the highest. He would reign, and his kingdom would be everlasting." Now here's that little baby lying in a feeding trough, and she must have been, as a new mother, wondering what was going on. What would have been in our thoughts? What would have been in your thought as a woman, as a young girl? You know, what would you be thinking? I know that I would have been terrified, thinking, what's going on here? So then, what happens after that is that shepherds come to see the baby, and they've told Mary that the angel had said. It says Mary pondered all these things in her heart. These shepherds had been sent. They had seen these stars in the sky, and they'd been told that this baby had been born. And they came to see this baby. But it says Mary pondered all these things in her heart. That's in verse 19 of chapter 2. And then the next thing that we see here is when she takes him to the temple. All of these things that this mother was going through, this young woman who was a new mom, who was just a young girl, all these things that she was going through. So she takes him, and Simeon, who was a prophet there, she met him in the temple. And he comes and blesses her son, and he blesses Mary. Verses 34 and 35. Then Simeon blessed him and said to Mary his mother, "Behold, this child is destined for the fall and rising of many in Israel, and for a sign which will be spoken against. And yes, a sword will pierce through your own soul also, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed." Imagine being told in the future. Imagine as that mother being told that she would suffer emotional heartache and pain. These were sacrifices that she was making. She didn't know what was happening to her. We can only imagine as mothers ourselves what she was going through. Can you imagine that yourself? Can you think about that? What you would have went through? The next thing that happened is that they lose Jesus. We found him, he had gone down to the temple, and he was listening. He was 12 years old, and he was listening and discussing things with the teachers in the temple. They'd been going there, and Mary had probably worried all that time about where he was. There's a mother. Don't we as mothers, we worry, don't we? We think about these, we get anxious about our children. We wonder where they are and what they're doing. Even when they're grown up, we still worry about our kids, you know. So Mary must have been really worried about Jesus and wondering where he was. But when she goes there, and they go back again looking for him, and they find him in this temple. And what does he say in verse 49? "Why do you seek me?" Jesus said to her, "Did you not know that I must be about my Father's business?" Goodness me. Imagine this young boy saying that to his mother. "Why do you seek me? Do you not realise I have to be about doing what my daddy wants me to do?" You know? And Mary must have been quite worried, and she must have been a wee bit hurt. A wee bit hurt about him saying that to her, because they had been worried. But again, in verse 51, we read, he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was subject to them. But his mother kept all these things in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favour with God and men. Again, Mary hid all these things in our heart. How many things do we hide in our hearts as moms? We do. We worry. We're anxious about our children, the things that they're going through. But we hide them in our hearts. We don't really talk about them, do we? We keep a lot of things to ourselves, but that's a mother's heart. That is a mother's heart. So then the next thing we see is they're at a wedding. And she's with Jesus, her son, and she says to Jesus, "Get no wine." And he answers her. Was she hurt about the way he spoke to her? You know? She must have been really hurt about the way he spoke to her. But she went ahead and she said to the people there, "Go and do what he has told you to do. Just go and do it." She listened to her son, and she knew that this son of hers was different. There was something about him, whether she understood it all, but she just, again, hid it in her heart, kept all these thoughts to herself, and she just got him, went and did what he wanted her to do. So here she was recognizing what was happening, the things she had been told before and after he was born. This son is special, but she must have thought, what next? What next? But she stayed with him right to the cross. She watched him being beaten. This is a mother. She watched him being mocked. She watched him being nailed to that cross. She must have been in agony in her heart. She would have thought back to what Simeon had told her. He told her that a sword would pierce her heart. And here it was happening. She must have been in real sorrow of heart and mind. Here's a mother who loved so much crying out because of what they were doing to her son. But in John chapter 19, we read this, verse 25 to 27. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother, his mother's sister Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus therefore saw his mother with the Savior whom he loved standing by, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." And he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, that disciple took her to his own home. So here's the love that we see for the son, from the son, for his mom. He's being nailed to a cross. He's hanging there, he's in agony, and yet he's thinking about his mother. He's thinking about his mother. And he asked John to take her in to his home and look after her. So there we see such love between a mother and a son. We as mothers have never really had to go through what Mary went through. We've never had those things. But we've all had our moments with sons and daughters. I was just thinking as well when I was doing this about Claire, what she had talked about a few weeks ago. She gave her testimony and the things that Claire has been through, the hurt and the sorrow that she has felt as a mother. And yet she went on with her life and she found healing in Jesus. And we all have our stories. I did as well. There was things in my life with my son, one in particular. He'd been through drugs, alcohol, he'd slept in the streets, He'd be begging. He'd come home to me and he was just in an awful state. He'd be taking heroin. These are the things that hurt a mother. These are the things that grab a mother's heart. I praise the Lord today that he's okay, he's fine, he's not saved yet, but he will be. Believe God for him, you know. But these are the things that go through a mother. And I'm sure there's many of us here with a mother's heart that gone through many things, and different stories. And we all have that sadness in our hearts. We have tears, but we have laughter as well. And I just want to say, it's worth it all. To be a mum is worth it all. To be a wife and a mother here, we're called blessed. In Proverbs 31, everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. Proverbs. Verses 10 to 31. I just want to read it. Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax, and she willingly works with her hands. She's like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises by the dish at night and provides food for her household and a portion for her maidservants. She considers a field and buys it. From her profits she plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. She perceives that her merchandise is good and her lamp does not go out by night. She stretches out her hands to the distaff and her hand holds the spindle. She extends her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. She's not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. She makes tapestry for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates. When he sits among the elders of the land, she makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies sashes for the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. She watches over the ways of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. I like that. But a woman who fears the Lord, that's where it's at. But she shall be praised. But here's that Proverbs 31 lady is quite a woman. Quite a woman. I don't think many of us are really like that. I look at Claire, and she does all of these lovely crocheting, and then I looked at this other stuff that she's been doing on Facebook that I saw this morning, a picture of. Here's one of these Proverbs 31 ladies. She's absolutely amazing. But we as wives and mothers, we are called blessed. That's what we are, ladies. We are blessed. We are blessed by the love of God that is poured out in our lives and through us. So, ladies, I'm going to say to you, stand up today and say, I am blessed. Come on, stand up.